Today we have 4 ideas in the sports space. We are going to take advantage of new legislation. We are going to look at international sports camps. We're going to roll out an idea that's working phenomenally well in London to other cities. And we are going to explore a startup idea in the world of golf sims. Let's go. Morning, Rich.
Oh, you caught me drinking. Morning, Doug.
I was.
How are you, friend?
I'm good. I was at Wentworth on Friday at the BMW International, and I've got my cap. What do you think? Do you think I should wear a cap?
I think you should wear a cap because I wear a cap. I wear a cap mostly because I don't like my head shining in these lights that we use. But I think you look stellar in a cap. You actually do look like a golfer. You've got your. Is that Nike or is that It's probably Callaway, isn't it? Your jersey, Callaway. Yeah, I mean you're full tilt golf fashion, which is acceptable in some circles.
I like to wear my cap backwards sometimes, but Lindsay says I look like a man-child. What do you think?
I mean, maybe we should do this.
I actually don't think it looks too bad. Honestly, think that looks okay, but I don't think anyone thinks, "Oh, this looks terrible."
Mine's got writing on it. I think mine says like established in Austin in 2006 or something, because mine's from a honky tonk. On 5th Street, it is 5th Street in Austin. It's straight up, it is. It's a fun little place. Not as good as the Broken Spoke, but it is good. It's called the White Horse in Austin, 5th Street.
I don't think we should do podcasts with our caps backwards.
I think we should. I think we have to stay with this now. I think it's done. You look intellectual, Doug. You look primed and ready, full of ideas.
Did you not have hair coming out of it? I don't know.
Do I have hair coming out of it? Are you taking the piss?
No, me. Should I have hair coming out of that little bit like that?
What, like some kind of little childy tuft? No, don't do that.
So don't you think it should be forehead?
That's ridiculous. It absolutely needs to be forehead. Preferably straight. What's going on? Is this a label as well?
It looks
a label coming through. I just look. We've got to get into the pod. You look great.
No, because
you look great. You look great.
A few moments later.
Look, that looks good. That looks okay. You look okay, actually, but I think you are cooler than me, so you can pull it off.
Right, so on the first tee at Wentworth, we have Doug Haynes representing Southend.
So we've got a sports theme today.
Super.
I've got 3 ideas that I think genuinely good ideas for someone that wants to start a sports business. 2 of them, really low-cost setup. The third one, millions and millions, but a fucking good idea. You ready?
Yeah, I think I might be able to contribute to a sports company that I recently heard about setting up. Very cool. So yes, we might have 4.
There is a new regulation that the Home Office in the UK have brought out, and it's to do with the international sportsperson's visa. The UK government haven't made it hyper-specific, but basically what it means is that in all sports, but I've looked at this specifically in football, it is now relaxed in terms of like overseas players that you can sign. So whereas before, if an English professional football team wanted to sign a player from overseas, they had to be like an international. They had to play a certain amount of minutes. That has been massively relaxed, and I still think it's kind of finding its feet exactly where it's going to land in terms of practicality. But what it does from a business perspective, it opens up. Let's just take South Africa as an example. We've both just been there. All of a sudden, professional football teams from the UK can start signing South Africans into their squads. And that is the same for players all over the world. So all of a sudden, this huge, vast talent pool of professional athletes opens up. I think there is a huge opportunity for a specific sports agency that helps English professional clubs access these talent pools.
Is it? I don't suppose you know this, and maybe you do know this from some research. What? Has this been a big problem in the past? Like, is it like there's this talent that's just lingering in these other regions that the British clubs can't sign? Is it a genuine problem?
They've just ignored those markets, so they've not even considered them because they just cannot access that talent. They can only hire from South Africa. They can only sign, players that play for the national team. So Southend United or like a
that's the difference, isn't it? It's the lower level. It's not necessarily the Premier League level, because the Premier League level are going to want those internationals anyway, most likely. But yeah, imagine Southend. I mean, they're a little bit on their heels at the minute. Just go and hoover up loads of great players from around. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's
a lot of lower teams.
There's a lot of you can't just. It's not open season. They still have to fulfil certain, at the moment, fairly vague looking criteria. Like they have to prove that they're like an elite sports person, that they're not going to necessarily take the job of someone locally, that kind of thing. But there's probably 50 players in South Africa that could play professional football in one of those professional English leagues that like maybe aren't internationals. And all of a sudden, if you've got an agency that like, look, I know there's 50 players, I've got relationships with them.
Super interesting.
So anyway,
imagine South America. Imagine what Brazil would be like for like League One, League Two. It'd be incredible. They'd tear it up. Because the standard of semi-professional and professional football in the lower leagues of Brazil is high. It's high. Oh, I love that. Okay. Interesting. So you're going to have to, if you were starting that business, you're obviously going to have significant knowledge of football. So maybe an ex-scout in your team. But you're also going to have legal understanding, legal nous, to be able to think about how you could do the immigration part. But what a job that would be. Because you'd represent them in country and then find them clubs within inside of the European leagues, wouldn't you? Or British League, UK League. Yeah,
exactly. You'd have exactly right. Marketplace play. You've got the UK clubs, you've got the contacts in South Africa, and you've got the legal framework. Because my guess is that the Home Office are not going to be giving out these visas that easily. You're still going to have to jump through quite a few hoops. So if you can get those three things sorted, which I'm sure is doable, then I think that could be a really good business, and a business that's really hard to replicate. Once you've got all those relationships, people can't just come in and effectively muscle in on that. So you just got to choose a market, be it South Africa, be it Chile, be it Brazil. I mean, you've got to be a little bit careful if you go to anywhere too exotic that you've got some local people that don't want you there. But look, I think it's a good one. All right.
I think it's interesting. Cool.
Number 2. Okay, cool. So number 2 is Cape Town camps. Sports
Cape Town
camp.
What? Cabs?
Camps.
Taxis? Oh, cabs. Okay, Ubers, right. Interesting. Segue. All right, camps. Okay.
So this is sports, like camps for professional or college teams. So whatever the sport, football, athletics, cycling, you arrange warm weather training camps for all of those different sports based in Cape Town. And your sell is, look, yes, you've got to get a 12-hour flight. Yes, it's
fortune.
Yes, those flights are not cheap, but once you are in country, it is very inexpensive. It's a brilliant location in terms of the climate. And also it's just a great location for teams to go in terms of team building and bonding. There's a lot of interesting things to do. Because what are your options otherwise? You're going to the Middle East, fine.
You're talking about you. Who's your customer? Who's your customer here? Talk to me. Who's that? Is that kids? High school?
It's so wide. All right, professional football teams that are not at the very. I doubt Manchester United are going to go there, but Rotherham United might go there. You've got American colleges is a great market because they've got a lot of money and they're always looking for camps. And then other.
How long does a camp? How long camp last? Is that like 2 weeks, 4 weeks? How long do camps last?
I think 2 weeks? It varies a lot.
10 days, 2 weeks.
A mid-season football team camp might last 5 days. An athletics pre-season camp could last 3 weeks. So
my only challenge. Well, no, not my only challenge. My first challenge is facilities. You know that obviously down by the stadium in the waterfront, the facilities are world class. I don't know what the facilities are like in more rural or provincial areas. I don't know whether that depth of training facility exists. Maybe you could use off-season. You could use high schools and universities, colleges. Like UCT, Stellenbosch. You could use those. But yeah, facilities, particularly with slightly prima donna football clubs in the UK, I would imagine need to be quite high.
I feel like there'd be sweet spots here, and the sweet spots off the top of my head would be rugby, because A, the facilities are good, B, you can have a real tear up with a local team. I think cricket, the facilities are really good, and golf, the facilities are phenomenal for golf.
Golf is amazing, yeah.
And you can play on courses that are just incredibly high quality. And there's a shitload of them. And you can play all different types of courses. You can play links, you can play parklands, you can play tight, you can play long. It's really good quality. So, and for golf, the facilities are there. They just need a hotel and a course.
So you're thinking like the business idea there is that you're essentially pairing up, organisations in the UK that would want to go and do these offshore camps, and then you're matching that with facilities inside of Cape Town and facilitating that connection.
It's probably a tour company. You probably build the packages yourself, and then you sell them, and then you take a margin.
It's quite interesting that because we're so far out of that. I mean, I've never gone on a football tour other than across the Normandy when I was like 9. I don't know how they put that together. I guess they have it. True. The Dutch kids, by the way, were all about 6'5", and they were 9 years old. We got absolutely, genuinely ironed out by the Dutch. One or two of them went on to play for Ajax, actually. I think it's really quite interesting that. I don't know about volume and how many you'd have to sell to make a viable business, and how many facilities can you pair. Like, I could imagine that the summer would. Another challenge you got is Southern Hemisphere. If you take, and I'm obsessing with football here, but I suppose you could do a winter camp, but we don't really have a winter break. So the summer in the UK, when we're coming back to pre-season, June, July is wet, rainy season in Cape Town.
It would depend on the sports and stuff. Yeah, you'd have to sort of match it up. But I think from a marketing perspective, super easy to generate the leads outbound. There's 20,000 sports teams, that's viable for. Okay. Final idea. So at the O2 in London, there's something called, I don't know how you pronounce it, TOCA Social, and it's football.
What is that?
It's
how do you spell
like
it?
TOCA Social, and it's basically like an indoor football simulator where they have these like little zones where the ball comes in and you control it and you have to like kick it back through a hoop, that kind of thing. It's everyone that has been, I've not been, has
Loves
said it is phenomenal fun. Now and I believe that you could replicate that in probably 10 cities in the UK where I think that could work, and you're just filling it and it's effective. Like Manchester, probably like a Newcastle, an Edinburgh, maybe a Bristol.
Surely they're going to do that though, right?
Sorry?
Surely they're going to do that, aren't they?
So, and it's expensive, right? So you look at that O2 venue, it is, I don't know what it would cost to stand it up. I would have thought 5 to 10 million. But I think it could work on a smaller scale. I think you could have that's got like 20 booths. I think you could have one with like 3 or 4. It's a bar, it's a venue. And obviously standing those things up in Manchester is going to be way cheaper than doing it in London. I just don't see a world where that doesn't work. From a marketing perspective, there's so many angles to just get that filled, and I think the ticket price is high. You can go corporate, you can go students, you can go stag weekends, and then you can just have walk-ins.
How much was it? Do you know?
I think
how much is it?
£20 or £30, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a little bit like what they do with some of the golf stuff in town, right?
It's exactly the same vibe. They have these like booths, and you go in, and everyone else is sort of sitting around it with a drink and some food.
Yeah. I mean, I've obviously in Top Golf, I've seen that to be tremendously successful in the US. I think any kind of place where you marry people's you marry something quite friendly but competitive in a sport that they love, and you put that together with a really kind of social environment where there's a bit of food and a bit of drink, I think it always goes down pretty well. I've always found these things, and you touched on it, a little bit prohibitively expensive though. Like you even go to like Flight Club in London to play darts. It's like toppy for what you're getting. It's expensive. But I guess a lot of that's drawn by how much the rent costs, because the land has to be big, doesn't it? Because it's a big space that you're renting to kind of put it into, so you have to recover that. I really like that. I mean, that's a nice segue into a business. I spoke to the founder about. It was when I was going to play. I was going to go and play the Miller Championship, so it would have been the beginning of June. And he, avid golfer, plays off about 2, and he's wants to kind of take the indoor golf simulator to another level. And so he's basically rented. I think he's got a couple of sites in South England, and he's got 8 booths. Right, so 8 4-sight cameras, like you get your training done in golf. And he's got 8 of those, and he's created essentially a club, so people play competitively with inside of these booths against each other in competitions on courses. So it's not a case of just go down there and whack a golf club or get this tested. You can actually get a handicap with the inside of this club, and then they're going to build out these competitions, and there's going to be prizes and cash and all the rest of it. But it's actually city centre related, and I think that's quite interesting because it's taken the social element of go and play TPC Sawgrass with your mates and have a chicken wing through to actually making it a bit more competitive. And nobody else does that, and it's all interlinked. So you get your handicap, you get your club membership, you're able to go and book a booth, and it's just part of your monthly fee, like you would do going to your local golf club. So you pay, I can't remember exactly what his monthlies were. I think they were about 70 to 100 quid, which compared to a golf club is actually reasonable. And you can just drop in and do that. And it's a similar thing, just a different sport. And I need to check in with him because I think it's a great idea.
Does he owns the infrastructure as well? Like he's standing up the actual venues?
So he is long-term renting the venues, refitting them, and then putting the GC quads in, yeah. And the software associated to the memberships and tracking scores and handicaps and all the rest of it. So
it's he's got all the capital requirement of actually getting the venues right as well.
Yes, and we did talk about what kind of capital we're looking at, and it was under 100 grand to start the business
for one venue.
For one venue, but when you consider that the GC quads are 25 grand each, what he got them for, because he was buying a number, was remarkable. And he says it's crazy what people will do when they want to sell a number of them and want to be associated with something.
I think I like the idea from the perspective of having golf sims and creating like a club and a competitions around it.
Because you can go global. You could do it at home if you've got one of those at home. That's what I like about it. A bit like Peloton or Swift for golf. I
think that the way basically you've got 2 plays here, and I think it doesn't sound like he's sort of necessarily decided which one. I mean, yes, you can set up businesses where you own the infrastructure that costs, like you say, 100 grand to stand one up, and that's a decent idea. I'm sure you could just build a membership and just build another one, and 3 and 4 and 5, whatever, fine. Or if you could create a club and a set of competitions that are independent of you owning the infrastructure, I think that is and then you have the members, and it's almost like a SaaS business then. Because I hate the idea of owning the infrastructure. No, actually that's not true. Me personally, I like that because it's simple. You get 100 grand, you build it, you get people through the door. But I don't see that scaling, and I see problems. But if you could create the brand. As the golf club, it's a bit like Zwift, right? Sorry to cut you off, but the Zwift stuff is very much about you jump on your bike in your garage. You've got some form of trainer attached to it, so you can read how fast you go, and you jump on, you have a ride with your mates, and it's pissing down outside in November, but you're riding Calabria or whatever it is. The challenge with scale with this business, even on the membership side, is these home simulators or the ability to read what you do in a digital world are expensive. Prohibitively expensive. If you could find a way, or there was technology around that you could go in your garden with a net and you could go and play sawgrass against your mates, and it was able to read what you were doing via that launch monitor, and you could do that cheaply, and I'm talking like $200, then you could have a very interesting global club. Yeah, so should probably do a little bit of digging into that. I wonder how much the hardware would be. I'd be really interested. It's not that far away. The challenge for people is more having the space to do it, so like having a net that is covered and having a projector so you can see it, because without that it's a little bit shit. So that software is not that far away. I mean, there's various grades of it. I think what you're saying, which is sort of Swift for golf. For me, that's like a third. That's an even more advanced option. The middle option is perhaps the club, the competition, the brand, and then partnering with all of these the current infrastructure.
The current infrastructure. Yeah, okay. So you could hold events.
Like around here, within 10 minutes of my house, there's two venues. And they do struggle a little bit. They have their own little in-house competitions, but they're always trying to get people through the door because there's no marginal cost. So if you can offer something great for the infrastructure, and then they can promote your SaaS business effectively, you're not having to stand up all of that, cost to build the venues. Not easy to do, but I think the venues would want it because that will help them fill the venues for them.
I think it's really. I think it's interesting. I like the idea of leveraging the current infrastructure. Why it's a bit prohibitive, both cost-wise and also space-wise, to have it in your garden. Eventually, what you'd want is some form of, I don't want to solution it, but you want some form of alignment, so you can play it in the garden in the net, and you've got your computer set up there, and you could do that. Yeah, it's interesting. Right. I'm going to check in with him, see how he's doing.
It's because like Zwift is an interesting one. Like I don't use it, but people that do Zwift, like Peloton, is your sort of, slightly lower key, like people that aren't as keen. Zwift is your hardcore keen cyclist, and I know people that they've literally in their garage they've got a fucking bike on some like a static thing. They've got a projector. They've put it up on a screen, and they do that because they are passionate about it. And in golf, there are people like that, people that have their own sims, and so people are just starting to build out individual infrastructure, and that is only going to get quicker and faster, and more people will have it. But you're right, if you've got, for now we just use current infrastructure, the clubs that exist, the sims that exist, but then you can plug into it at home as well, and you can build the brand is the key. So that is the go-to place for sim competitions and membership, and you have all these benefits. I think that is a sick business. Hard to do, wouldn't touch it myself, but if someone wants to have that war, I think it's a war worth having.
Yeah.
Would you have that war? Not for you, is it?
Probably not.
You've got to want to go.
Probably not.
I was chatting to a friend the other day who's like, I'm deciding whether I want to set up a startup. I'm earning a shitload in commerce, whatever. Do I come out of it and set my own startup up? And just the question, the one thing I said is, look, the shit that you know is not going to help you that much. It'll help you a bit. And it's just, do you want to go to war? That's the question. If you want to raise money, I'm not talking about setting up a fucking fruit shop. I'm talking about a high growth tech startup. Do you want to do that? The only question is, do you want to go to war and probably fail? And if the answer is you can wear that risk, definitely fucking do it, because the rewards are huge. But you are taking a lot of incoming fire, and your life's going to go to shit for 10 years. So it's up to you.
Yeah, and also you got what I think most founders don't recognise when they come out of industry is the opportunity cost that they've lost in their career. They think, I've invested this, I've invested that time, but they don't recognise if you're on 150 grand a year that you've also let 750 grand go.
The opportunity cost is huge.
The opportunity cost is huge. Yeah.
Okay. Risk is huge.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
Outro's on you, Rich.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. What's the outro going to be? I think the outro has to be that if you want to see Doug in varying degrees of golf clothing, that please like and comment and ask Doug to wear his hat backwards. Is that terrible? That was a terrible outro, wasn't it?
That's not terrible. Let's not judge it.
Let's not judge it.
See you, Rich.
Thanks, Doug. I've got to polish those. Okay, mate.